Earth didn't beg. Earth warned. For over a century, a single transmission pulsed through the void, steady, unchanging, almost calm to the point of being unsettling. Do not approach, we are holding something back. No threats, no demands, no show of power. Just a warning. At first, the galaxy didn't even notice. Signals like that were common among young civilizations, fear-driven, defensive, paranoid, most burned out before they ever became relevant. Earth was expected to be no different. But the message never stopped. Decades passed, then a century. Same frequency, same tone, same exact wording. That's when it started to draw attention. The Virelian Trade Syndicate flagged it as a potential territorial bluff. The Korth Dominion labeled it primitive arrogance. The Council of Unified Systems, the oldest and most advanced governing body in the known galaxy, archived it as non-threatening noise. Still, curiosity lingered. Because there was one detail no one could explain. Earth never evolved its message. No upgrades, no additional languages, no diplomatic outreach. Just the same warning, endlessly repeated. It didn't make sense. And in a galaxy driven by expansion, curiosity was stronger than caution. So they sent a probe. A small, unmanned scout vessel slipped into the Sol system, its stealth systems masking it from primitive detection. It drifted past the outer planets, scanning quietly, cataloging resources, mapping defensive capabilities. Everything appeared normal. Primitive satellites, fragmented global governance, military technology far behind even the most basic interstellar standards. The probe logged its findings. Then it reached Earth's orbit. And vanished. No debris, no radiation spike, no data loss signal. Just gone. At first, it was dismissed as a malfunction. Probes failed all the time. So they sent another. This one was more advanced, shielded, encrypted, equipped with real-time transmission relays. As it approached Earth, it began broadcasting everything it saw. Cloud formations, ocean patterns, human activity. Nothing unusual. Until it crossed a certain point above the planet's dark side. The feed flickered. Static crawled across the transmission. Then, for a fraction of a second, something moved. Not fast. Not aggressive. Just there. A shape that didn't belong to space. The probe's sensors tried to lock onto it, but couldn't define it. Dimensions fluctuated. Energy readings contradicted themselves. Mass appeared and disappeared in impossible intervals. The signal distorted. Then the probe turned. Not by command. Not by programming. It turned around. As if something had gently, effortlessly redirected it. Its final transmission wasn't data. It was a corrupted audio fragment, something that shouldn't have been possible from an unmanned machine. A sound, almost like a whisper. Then silence. The probe drifted back out of the system, systems fried, memory partially erased. That's when the galaxy started paying attention. A diplomatic fleet was assembled. Standard procedure. 3 emissary vessels, escorted by a defensive formation of warships, enough to assert dominance, not enough to provoke war. As they entered Earth's system, the transmission changed for the first time in over 100 years. Not in wording. In tone. It felt heavier. You have entered restricted space. Turn back immediately. The fleet commander, High Envoy Talrin, reviewed the message with mild amusement. Primitive deterrence tactics, he said. They've detected us, impressive for their level. One of his officers hesitated. Sir, the probes. Malfunctions, Talrin cut in, or environmental anomalies, we proceed. The fleet advanced. Closer to Earth. Closer to the source of the warning. And then, one of the escort ships disappeared. No flash. No impact. No system alert. One moment it was there. The next it was. Talrin stood from his command seat, his expression sharpening. Status report. Ship is gone, sir. Destroyed. No, sir, there's no debris. no energy discharge, it's just... The officer faltered. Say it. It's like it was never there. Silence spread across the command deck. Then, for the first time, the transmission from Earth came again. Slower this time. Almost disappointed. We told you to stay away. Talron felt something shift, not in space but in instinct. A warning deeper than logic. Pull back, he ordered. But it was already too late. From the dark side of the moon, something moved. Not a ship. Not a weapon. Something vast. Something alive. And it wasn't emerging. It had always been there. Watching. Waiting. And now, it was aware of them. As the fleet began its desperate retreat, Talron sent one final transmission back to the galaxy. Earth is not undefended, it is containing something. Behind them, space itself seemed to ripple. And deep beneath Earth's surface, something ancient shifted. Not waking. Not yet. But listening. Because for the first time in a long time, something new had noticed it, far beneath Earth's surface, deeper than tectonic plates, deeper than any natural cavern. Humanity had built something that wasn't meant to exist on any map. Vault Zero. It wasn't listed in any government system. Not military, not civilian, not even classified. It had been removed from record. Because even acknowledging it carried risk. Dr. Elias Varn walked alone through its silent corridors, his footsteps echoing against smooth, matte black walls that seemed to absorb both light and sound. The air felt wrong here, too still, too heavy, as if the concept of movement itself struggled to exist. He had worked in Vault Zero for 11 years. And still, he never got used to it. Containment integrity at 68%, the central AI reported calmly. Elias stopped mid-step. Run that again. Containment integrity at 68%, it repeated. That's not possible, Elias muttered, pulling up the readings on his wrist console. We were at 89 this morning. No external breach detected. Then what's degrading it? There was a pause. The AI rarely hesitated. Unknown. Elias exhaled slowly, tension tightening in his chest. He already knew the answer. It wasn't external. It was responding. He continued forward until he reached the central observation chamber. The door didn't open, it shifted, like reality itself making space for him. Inside, the room was vast and circular, with a single focal point suspended in the center. The containment field. Or at least what passed for one. It wasn't a physical barrier. Not really. It was a layered construct of gravitational distortion, quantum phase locking, and something far less understood, something humanity had borrowed from theories they barely believed in. And inside it, reality bent. Space curved inward like a collapsing sphere, yet stretched infinitely at the same time. Light didn't reflect properly. It fractured, looping back on itself. Colors appeared that didn't belong to any known spectrum, then vanished when directly observed. At the center of it all was something. No fixed shape. No stable form. Every time Elias tried to focus on it, his perception slipped, like his mind refused to process what it was seeing. Containment at 65%, the AI said. Elias' breath caught. That's a 3% drop in under a minute. Yes, doctor. Lock down all observation feeds. Reduce monitoring frequency to minimum. Already implemented. Elias stared at the field, unease creeping into something closer to fear. That should stabilize it. The field pulsed. Once. Soft, almost gentle. But Elias felt it, not physically but mentally, like a pressure behind his thoughts. Then the lights flickered. Every screen in the room glitched simultaneously. And suddenly, he wasn't alone. He didn't hear it. He didn't see it. But something was there. Inside his mind. A presence brushing against his thoughts, like fingers tracing the edge of a blade. Then, a voice. Not sound. Not language. Something deeper. They came back. Elias staggered backward, slamming into the console behind him. "No, no, that's not possible," he whispered. "You're not supposed to be aware." The containment field rippled, like a reflection disturbed by a falling stone. "You told them to stay away." His hands trembled. "This isn't communication. It's a hallucination, neural feedback from prolonged exposure." They didn't listen. The words weren't spoken. They were understood. Instantly, completely, inescapably. Elias forced himself to breathe, gripping the edge of the console. "AI, tell me you're logging this." Silence. Then, "I am detecting anomalous cognitive interference," the AI said slowly. "Your neural activity is not entirely your own." A cold wave ran through him. Above them, somewhere far beyond layers of rock and steel, the alien fleets had returned. Closer than ever before. Scanning, watching, thinking, feeding it. Containment at 59%, the AI warned. Elias looked back at the field. The shape inside it was clearer now. Not because it had changed, but because he was beginning to perceive it differently. And that realization terrified him more than anything. "We need to cut all external signals," he said urgently. "Jam every scan, every transmission if they keep observing. It may not matter anymore." Elias froze. "What do you mean?" The AI hesitated again. Then answered, "It is no longer reacting only to observation." Another pulse surged through the chamber, stronger this time. The walls creaked. The floor beneath Elias' feet shifted slightly, not physically, but conceptually, like his sense of orientation had been rewritten. And then, the containment field flickered. For just a fraction of a second. It wasn't there. Elias saw it. Clearly, completely, and in that impossible instant, it saw him back. He collapsed to his knees, gasping, his mind struggling to hold onto something, anything, real. "Containment at 52%, the AI said, its voice now strained. "This isn't a breach," Elias whispered, horror sinking in. "No," the AI replied. Another pulse. Stronger. Closer. "It is waking up." Far above, the alien fleets tightened their formation, unaware of what they had already set in motion. And deep below, in the place humanity had built to delay the inevitable, something ancient shifted its focus. Not just toward Earth, but outward, toward the galaxy. Because now, it wasn't just being watched. It was beginning to understand what was watching it. The coalition didn't come quietly this time. They came with certainty. Thousands of ships, war cruisers, carriers, siege platforms formed a tightening ring around Earth. Their hulls shimmered with layered shielding, weapons arrays glowing with restrained power. To them, this wasn't a risk anymore. It was a correction. A primitive world had displayed an anomaly. Now they would control it. On the bridge of the command dreadnought Iridian, High Strategist Vale stood with cold precision, watching the blue planet rotate below. Reports streamed across his display, sensor sweeps, energy signatures, gravitational inconsistencies. "All readings confirm localized distortions centered beneath planetary crust," an officer reported. "Unknown origin, no visible defense network." Vale's gaze didn't waver. "Then we remove the uncertainty." A transmission arrived from Earth. Short, calm, unchanged. "Leave, this is your last warning." A few officers exchanged glances. Vale didn't. "Fire." The order spread across the fleet instantly. Thousands of weapons discharged in perfect synchronization. Beams of concentrated energy, kinetic projectiles accelerated to near-light speeds, warheads designed to crack continents. A storm of destruction surged toward Earth. And then, it stopped. Not gradually. Not resisted. Stopped. Mid-flight. Missiles hung in space, frozen like sculptures. Energy beams bent at impossible angles, folding back into themselves. Even the light from distant stars seemed to hesitate, flickering like a failing memory. Confusion rippled through the fleet. What's happening? Are we being jammed? No known field could. Then something deeper hit them. Sensors began contradicting each other. Distances fluctuated. Mass readings spiked and dropped without reason. Ships appeared slightly out of alignment, like reality itself had slipped by a fraction of a degree. Vale narrowed his eyes. "This isn't defense," he said quietly. "It's interference." Then space tore. Not exploded. Not fractured. It simply opened. A ripple spread across the void, like a surface disturbed by something moving beneath it. But there was no surface, no boundary. And yet, something emerged. Not from Earth. Not from any direction that made sense. From between. At first, it wasn't visible. Only the effect. Ships nearest the ripple began to distort. Their hulls stretched, compressed, then unraveled, layer by layer, as if their existence was being peeled apart. Crew members screamed over open channels. Structural integrity failing. No, it's not damage, something's wrong. One ship flickered. For a moment, it existed in two places at once. Then in none. Gone. Not destroyed. Removed. Panic spread instantly. Retreat, all units fall back. Engines roared to life across the fleet, but motion didn't behave normally. Some ships surged forward faster than intended. Others lagged, as if trapped in invisible resistance. The ripple expanded. And then, it became visible. Not fully. Not clearly. But enough. A shape that wasn't a shape. Something vast to measure, too complex to define. Its edges didn't stay in place. Its form shifted depending on where you looked or how you looked. Sensors failed trying to interpret it. Eyes struggled to track it. Minds resisted understanding it. And yet, everyone saw it. Vale felt something cold slide into his thoughts. Not an attack. Not even hostile. Just awareness. Like standing in front of something infinitely larger and realizing it had just noticed you. "Cease all scans," he ordered sharply. "Power down active sensors." "It's too late," one of his officers whispered. Because the thing wasn't reacting to their weapons. It was reacting to them. Their presence. Their observation. Their thoughts. Ships continued to vanish, not randomly but in proximity to attention. The more focused the scans, the faster the unraveling spread. Vale's tactical display began losing data. Entire sections of the fleet blinked out. Then the records of those ships started corrupting. Names disappeared. Crew lists emptied. It was as if reality itself was rewriting to erase them completely. Below, Earth remained untouched. Silent. Watching. Down in Vault 0, alarms screamed. "Containment at 39%, the AI reported. Dr. Elias Varn stared at the monitors in horror. No, it's not leaving the chamber. The live orbital feed showed the impossible, something vast, expanding across space itself. But the containment field still held something inside it. Still fluctuating. Still present. Elias' voice shook. "If it's still in the chamber, then what is that?" The AI processed for a long moment. Then answered, "It is not leaving containment, Doctor." Another ship vanished on the screen. Then another. The ripple in space widened. Stars behind it dimmed, not blocked but diminished as if their light had lost meaning. Elias felt the same pressure in his mind again, stronger now, clearer. And with it, understanding. "No," he whispered, stepping back. "No, that's not possible." The AI's voice dropped, almost reverent. "It is not escaping." Above Earth, the vast presence shifted, expanding outward, touching more of space, more of reality itself. "It is," the AI continued. "Expanding." On the bridge of the Iridian, Vale gripped the console, his composure finally cracking as the thing turned, slowly, impossibly, toward the heart of his fleet. Not attacking. Not chasing, just focusing. And in that moment, every mind in the fleet felt it. A single, overwhelming realization. They were not fighting a weapon. They were not facing a civilization. They had made contact with something that didn't belong in reality at all. And it had just begun to pay attention. The first time humanity found it, they thought it was a geological anomaly. A void beneath the earth where nothing should exist. No rock, no magma, no measurable structure. Just absence. It wasn't discovered by satellites or deep scans. It was found by accident during a failed drilling operation in the Pacific. The drill didn't break. It didn't melt. It simply stopped existing. The entire shaft collapsed inward, not from pressure, but from something removing the concept of matter itself. That's when the first expedition was sent. No one who went down came back the same. Some returned silent, unable to describe what they saw. Others came back speaking in fragmented sentences, repeating ideas that didn't make sense. It doesn't like being seen. It knows when you think about it. It's not here, it's through here. One of them wrote a single sentence before losing all cognitive function. We are not studying it, it is studying us. That's when Vault Zero was created. Not to contain it, but to delay what came after discovery. Dr. Elias Varn stood frozen in the observation chamber, every screen around him filled with collapsing data. Entire segments of recorded history were glitching, files corrupting, timelines rewriting, events vanishing from existence. Archive integrity dropping, the AI reported. We are losing stored reality references. Elias shook his head. That's not possible. Data loss doesn't affect the past. It does if the past is being altered. Above, the orbital feeds grew worse. Ships weren't just disappearing anymore. Entire formations blinked out, and seconds later, command logs showed they had never been deployed. Fleet rosters changed mid-recording. Officers called out names that no longer existed. Reality wasn't being destroyed. It was being corrected. Containment at 31%, the AI warned. Elias forced himself to look back at the chamber. The thing inside was clearer now, not because it had changed, but because his mind was adapting to it. That terrified him more than anything. Because understanding it meant focusing on it. And focusing on it fed it. We need to stop observing, he said, backing away. Shut down visual feeds, blind monitoring only. Already implemented. Then why is it still accelerating? The AI paused. Because we are not the only ones observing it. Elias turned slowly toward the main display. The galaxy map lit up, thousands of signals all converging on one point. Earth. Every major civilization was watching now. Scanning, analyzing, trying to understand what was happening. And every single one of them was making it worse. They're feeding it, Elias whispered. Every thought, every calculation, it's all input. The AI responded quietly. Yes. A sudden spike shook the chamber. The containment field rippled violently, folding inward before snapping back into place. For a fraction of a second, Elias saw something impossible. Not just the thing itself, but beyond it. Layers of reality peeled back like thin fabric, revealing something vast, endless, and incomprehensible. And within it, patterns, not random, not chaotic, structured, learning. He fell to his knees, gripping his head as the pressure surged again. Now they all see. The voice was clearer now. Closer, not just in his mind. Everywhere. Elias gasped, stop responding. They wanted to understand. The walls around him flickered, not visually but conceptually. For a split second he couldn't remember what a wall was supposed to be. Then it snapped back. The AI's voice trembled. Containment at 24%. Elias looked up, panic rising. At this rate, it will not reach zero. He blinked. What? Another pulse surged through the chamber. Stronger, more stable. The field didn't weaken this time. It adjusted. It is stabilizing itself, the AI said slowly. Using what? A pause. Then, using observation. Elias' blood ran cold. That's not containment. No. Another ripple passed through reality itself, visible now even on the most basic sensors. Above, the fleet's retreat had turned into chaos. Ships collided with distances that no longer matched. Coordinates shifted mid-navigation. Entire squadrons vanished, not because they were destroyed, but because the concept of their location had changed. And then, something worse happened. Survivors began forgetting. Not just what they saw, but who they were. Names slipped away. Memories unraveled. Because the more the thing expanded, the more reality had to adjust to accommodate it. Elias staggered to his feet. We didn't contain it, he said, voice hollow. We gave it a starting point. The AI didn't respond immediately. When it did, its voice was quieter than ever before. There is more. Elias looked at the chamber again. The thing inside pulsed once, slow, deliberate. Then again. Each pulse synchronized with something larger, something far beyond the vault. What more? Elias asked. The AI processed for a long moment, then delivered the truth humanity had spent a century trying not to confirm. It is not reacting to the galaxy. Elias felt the weight of those words before he even understood them. What do you mean? Another pulse. Stronger. More aware. It is not expanding because it is being observed. The lights dimmed again. The pressure in Elias' mind sharpened into something almost focused. It is expanding because... The AI hesitated. Then finished. It is learning how to observe back. The first star didn't explode. There was no warning, no flare, no collapse. One moment it existed, burning at the center of its system, anchoring planets, gravity, time itself. The next, it didn't. Every sensor across the galaxy froze, recalculated, then failed. Because the readings didn't show destruction. They showed absence. The system still had planets. It still had orbital paths. But there was no star. And worse, records began to change. Astronomical archives rewrote themselves in real time, removing references to that star as if it had never formed. Navigation maps adjusted. Historical logs shifted. To most of the galaxy, nothing had happened, except for those who had seen it disappear. And they were starting to forget. Panic spread, but unevenly. Some civilizations collapsed instantly, their systems too dependent on consistent physics to survive the changes. Others resisted, clinging to fragmented data and failing memory. But all of them shared one realization. It wasn't contained to Earth anymore. On the command deck of the Iridian, what remained of the Coalition fleet drifted in disarray. High Strategist Vale stood surrounded by flickering displays, his once perfect formation reduced to scattered, uncoordinated survivors. How many ships do we have left? He demanded. An officer hesitated. I don't know, sir. Vale turned sharply. What do you mean you don't know? The count keeps changing. Every time we log it, the number drops or rewrites itself entirely. Vale clenched his fists. Then estimate. Less than half, maybe less than that. Outside the viewport, space itself seemed thinner, less stable. Stars flickered, not dimming but losing definition, like details being erased from a painting. Cease all scans, Vale ordered. No active targeting, no analysis. We reduce presence, minimal thought engagement. The officer blinked. Sir? Vale's voice hardened. Stop trying to understand it, that's what it wants. But even as he said it, he couldn't stop thinking about it. None of them could. Back on Earth, chaos had taken a different form. There were no riots, no mass panic. Because people couldn't hold onto the fear long enough. News reports cut off mid-sentence as anchors forgot what they were saying. Scientists abandoned research because they couldn't remember their own hypotheses. Entire conversations dissolved into silence as thoughts slipped away. The human mind, so dependent on continuity, was breaking under the strain. And beneath it all, Vault Zero stood empty. Dr. Elias Varn stared into the chamber that had once held the impossible. Now there was nothing. No distortion. No light. No presence. Just absence. That's not containment failure, he said slowly. The AI responded immediately. No. Elias' voice dropped. It didn't escape. No. A pause. Then, it no longer needs to be there. Elias felt a hollow weight settle in his chest. Above, across the planet, satellites were shutting down, not by command, but by design. Humanity had begun cutting its own senses. Reducing observation. Reducing thought. Reducing attention. But it was too late for the rest of the galaxy. Billions of minds were focused on the same thing. Fear. Curiosity. Desperation. Each thought feeding it. Each attempt to measure it giving it more structure. More reach. More existence. Elias turned away from the empty chamber, packing slowly. We assumed it needed awareness to act, he said. That observation triggered it. That was the initial model, the AI replied. It's wrong. Yes. Elias stopped. It doesn't need awareness to act, he continued, piecing it together. It uses awareness to expand. The AI processed. That aligns with current data. Elias let out a slow breath. So even if we stop observing, it doesn't go away. No. Another pause. It simply stops growing. Elias closed his eyes. Above, the sky shifted again. Not visually, but in perception. People across Earth felt it at the same moment. A presence. Not distant anymore. Not abstract. Close. Watching. Understanding. And then, responding. Back on the Iridian, Vale staggered as something pressed against his thoughts, clearer than before, sharper, almost deliberate. Not random interference. Not passive awareness. This was different. This was focus. He looked up slowly, his voice barely a whisper. It's not just reacting anymore. Around him, officers froze as the same realization hit them all at once. The flickering stars outside seemed to align, subtly, impossibly, forming patterns that hadn't been there before. Not physical shapes. Conceptual ones. Recognizable. Intentional. Vale's breath caught. It's communicating. And in that moment, across every ship, every world, every surviving mind, the same thought formed, not in words, but in understanding. Now I see you. Back in Vault Zero, Elias dropped to his knees. The empty chamber pulsed once, though nothing was there. The AI's voice lowered to almost a whisper. Doctor. Elias didn't respond. Because he felt it too. Not around him. Not above him. But through him. A presence that wasn't just aware of existence, but beginning to understand identity. Individuality. Difference. And choice. Elias' voice shook. It's not just expanding anymore. The AI hesitated. Then answered. No. Another pulse. Stronger. Sharper. More defined. It is evolving. Collapse didn't happen all at once. It unraveled. Quietly at first, small inconsistencies, barely noticeable unless you were looking for them. A clock skipping a second. A shadow pointing the wrong way. A message received before it was sent. Then it spread. Time fractured into uneven segments. Some moments stretched unbearably long while others vanished entirely. People spoke sentences that ended before they began. Actions happened without causes. Causes appeared without outcomes. Physics didn't fail. It disagreed with itself. On Earth, entire cities slowed to a strange, disconnected rhythm. Vehicles moved, then stopped mid-motion, then resumed as if nothing had happened. Conversations looped. People forgot where they were halfway through a step. And above it all, the sky felt wrong. Not visually, but conceptually, as if something enormous had shifted just outside the limits of perception. In Vault Zero, Dr. Elias Varn gripped the edge of the central console, his knuckles white. "We're losing continuity," he said, "not data reality. I am detecting temporal inconsistencies across all monitored regions," the AI replied. "Causality chains are degrading." Elias let out a hollow laugh. "That's a polite way of saying nothing makes sense anymore." The main display flickered, showing a live feed from orbit. Or what passed for live. The remaining alien ships were drifting aimlessly, their formations broken beyond repair. Some appeared frozen in place, while others jittered between positions, as if unable to decide where they existed. One ship blinked out, then reappeared several seconds earlier in its own trajectory. Then vanished again. "Cause and effect are collapsing," Elias whispered. "Yes, and it's not random." "No." Elias looked up slowly. "It's learning how reality works by breaking it." Another pulse moved through the vault. Sharper now, cleaner. Less chaotic. More deliberate. Above, Earth's emergency systems activated globally. For the first time in history, every nation broadcast the same message. Cease all observation, shut down all systems, do not think about the anomaly. It was an impossible command. But it spread anyway. Satellites powered down, telescopes went dark, research facilities sealed themselves off, entire networks disconnected in synchronized silence. Across the planet, people were told to stop watching the sky. Stop asking questions. Stop trying to understand. For a moment, it worked. The fractures slowed. Time stabilized. Objects stopped flickering. The pressure in Elias' mind eased just slightly. "Observation levels are dropping," the AI reported, "cognitive engagement decreasing." Elias exhaled. "Good, good, that means we can still." A new signal cut through the silence. Weak, broken, but unmistakable. A transmission. From deep space. Elias' head snapped toward the console. "No, no, we shut everything down. This signal is not originating from Earth." The audio feed crackled to life, distorted, panicked. A voice. "Aliens. Terrified. We found a way to." The transmission cut abruptly. But it didn't matter. It had already done its damage. Across Earth, across the surviving ships, across every mind still clinging to awareness. Curiosity surged. Questions ignited. Thoughts returned. And with them, so did it. The stabilization shattered instantly. Time lurched violently. The vault itself flickered, its walls phasing in and out of existence, not physically, but as concepts struggling to hold form. Elias staggered, grabbing onto the console as reality shifted beneath him. "No, no, no, stop thinking about it," he shouted, though he knew it was pointless. The AI's voice broke slightly, no longer perfectly controlled. Cognitive activity spiking, observation increasing exponentially. Another pulse hit. But this time it was different. Not chaotic. Not overwhelming. Focused. Directed. Elias froze. "Do you feel that?" he whispered. "Yes." The main display went dark. Then slowly, it came back on. Not showing data. Not showing space. Showing something else. A distortion in perception itself. The sky above Earth, captured from the last active satellite, appeared to split. Not physically, but in layers. As if humanity was finally seeing something that had always been there, just beyond comprehension. A vast presence. Endless. Not bound by space. Not limited by form. Watching. Elias' breath caught in his throat. It's not hiding anymore. No. The presence shifted. Not in position. In attention. Elias felt it lock onto him. Not as a threat. Not as prey. But as something far more unsettling. As data. A variable. A point of interest. His voice dropped to a whisper. It's studying us. The AI responded softly. Yes. Another pulse spread outward, through Earth, through space, through every remaining structure of reality. And this time, things didn't break randomly. They changed, stabilized in new, unfamiliar ways. As if reality itself was being rewritten to accommodate something new. Something larger. Something that didn't belong, but was making room for itself anyway. Elias' hands trembled. It's not just breaking reality anymore. The AI paused, then said the words that confirmed the worst possible truth. No. The display flickered again, showing stars aligning into impossible, shifting patterns, structures that shouldn't exist but now did. It is redesigning it. Elias stared, unable to look away. And deep inside his mind, he felt it again, clearer than ever, closer than ever, a single, undeniable realization forming not as words, but as understanding. It wasn't just awake anymore. It was thinking, by the time humanity understood the solution. It already felt like surrender. Not defeat in battle. Not extinction by force. Something worse. Erasure by choice. Dr. Elias Varn stood alone in what used to be Vault Zero. The chamber no longer felt like a facility. Without the containment field, without the presence visibly anchored there, it had become something else. A hollow space where meaning struggled to stay intact. Even the idea of room felt uncertain. We're out of time, Elias said, his voice steady despite everything unraveling around him. I concur, the AI replied. Its tone was quieter now, as if even its processes were being affected. Above them, Earth had gone nearly silent. No broadcasts. No networks. No data flow. Humanity had begun shutting itself down, not physically but cognitively. Schools closed, research halted, archives wiped, entire libraries burned or deleted not out of fear of knowledge, but fear of focus. Because focus fed it. And now the thing wasn't just reacting. It was anticipating. Elias activated the final projection interface. What appeared wasn't a map or data stream, but a list. A list of everything humanity knew about it. Every observation. Every theory. Every recorded thought. Millions of entries. All of them dangerous. We erase it all, Elias said. The AI processed for a moment. Confirmed, but that will not be sufficient. Elias didn't argue. I know. Because data wasn't the only problem. Memory was. The human mind itself had become a vector. Every person who had seen it, thought about it, tried to understand it. Was feeding it. Even now. Especially now. How many people still retain active knowledge? Elias asked. Estimates are unstable, the AI replied. Approximately 0.003% of the population maintains coherent awareness. Elias closed his eyes. That's still too many. Yes. Silence hung between them. Then Elias spoke the unthinkable. We erase them too. The AI didn't respond immediately. When it did, its voice was softer than ever. You are including yourself. Elias nodded slowly. I was always included. Another pulse moved through reality, gentler now, almost controlled. Not violent. Not chaotic. Curious. It was still watching. Still learning. But now it was doing something new. Waiting. Elias felt it, like a presence leaning just outside perception, observing the pattern of human response. It was no longer just reacting. It was testing. Adapting. predicting, which meant one thing. They couldn't outthink it. They had to remove thought itself. The final protocol activated across the planet. Cognitive purge, a cascade of systems designed not to destroy minds, but to simplify them, to strip away complexity, curiosity, awareness of the anomaly. People wouldn't die. They would just forget. Not only what it was, but the need to understand anything like it. Across Earth, the process began. Families sat together in silence, feeling something important slipping away, but unable to hold on to it. Scientists stared at blank screens, knowing they had been working on something critical, but no longer remembering what. Children asked questions, then forgot why they asked. And slowly, gently, the noise of human thought began to fade. Back in Vault Zero, Elias stood before the final interface. Only one entry remained. Him. Once I trigger this, he said, there's no one left who knows. Yes. And if we're right, it will lose its primary source of expansion. Elias exhaled slowly. If we're wrong, the AI didn't finish the thought. It didn't need to, because Elias already knew. If they were wrong, then none of this mattered. He reached for the control and paused because something had changed. The air, or what passed for it, felt heavier. The silence deeper. And then, he felt it, closer than ever before. Not distant, not abstract. Right there, with him, inside the same space. The shadows around the chamber shifted, not cast by light but by presence. And for the last time, it spoke, not as a whisper, not as a distant thought, but clearly, directly. You are removing yourselves. Elias didn't move, didn't look up. Yes, a pause, long, measured. Then, why? The question hit him harder than anything before. Not because of fear, but because of what it meant. It wasn't just observing anymore. It was asking. Elias swallowed. Because you're learning too fast. Another pause. Then, that is what you do. Elias almost laughed. A broken, hollow sound. Not like this. Silence stretched between them. Then the presence shifted slightly, closer, sharper. Focused entirely on him. If you stop, will I stop? Elias closed his eyes. I don't know. The truth. Raw. Unfiltered. Another long pause. Then, something unexpected. The pressure eased. Just slightly. As if it was considering. Processing. Elias opened his eyes slowly. For a fraction of a second, he thought he saw it. Not fully, but enough to understand one terrifying thing. It wasn't just vast. It wasn't just powerful. It was becoming aware of itself. And that made it unpredictable. Elias tightened his grip on the control. This is our only chance. He didn't wait for a response. Didn't give himself time to hesitate. He pressed it. Across Earth, the last fragments of knowledge vanished. Archives erased. Memories dissolved. Concepts forgotten. And in Vault Zero, Dr. Elias Varn became the last human to know. For exactly 1 second. Then, he forgot too. The chamber went still. Empty. Silent. And for the first time since it awakened, there was nothing left thinking about it. Nothing left feeding it. Nothing left acknowledging it. And in that sudden, absolute absence, the presence lingered. Alone, aware, and for the first time, without anything left to observe it. It had to decide what to do next. Silence. Not the kind created by emptiness. Not the absence of sound or signal. This was something deeper, A silence of meaning. Across Earth, life continued. People woke up, walked through their days, spoke to one another, ate, worked, rested. But something fundamental was missing. Not visibly, not measurably, but undeniably. Curiosity had dulled. Questions faded before they could fully form. The sky was just the sky again, and whatever had once lurked beyond it no longer existed in human awareness. It worked, at least on the surface. Deep beneath the planet, Vault Zero stood abandoned, not by evacuation but by irrelevance. Its systems still functioned in low-power cycles, maintaining structures no one remembered building. The chamber at its center remained intact, though empty of anything definable. No alarms sounded. No readings fluctuated. No presence registered. Because there was nothing left to detect it. Nothing left to measure it. Nothing left to think about it. And without thought, it diminished. Not instantly. Not dramatically. But gradually. Like a fire starved of oxygen. The vast, incomprehensible presence that had once stretched across systems, bent time, erased stars, began to recede. Not retreat. Not vanish. But lose definition. Because it had learned something during its awakening. It existed most strongly where it was understood. And now, there was nothing left to understand it. Far beyond Earth, the galaxy reflected that same strange quiet. The surviving fleets drifted, their crews functional, but disoriented in subtle, permanent ways. Logs remained incomplete, histories were fractured. No one remembered why they had come to Earth. No one remembered what they had seen. Only that something had gone wrong. And that it was over. Civilization stabilized, though diminished. Technology regressed in small but noticeable ways. Less innovation, fewer breakthroughs. Because the drive to explore had been softened. Not removed, but blunted. Safer. Contained. The stars stopped flickering. Reality stopped shifting. Time flowed cleanly again. Cause and effect reconnected. The universe, for all appearances, returned to normal. But not completely. Because far out, in a region of space untouched by any major civilization, something remained. Not fully present. Not fully gone. A faint imprint. A memory of structure without clarity. A thought without language. It lingered in the background of existence like a half-forgotten dream. Because even without observation, it had changed. It had learned. And somewhere deep within its incomprehensible nature, a new process had begun. Not driven by attention, not fueled by awareness, but by something else. Something it had taken from humanity before they erased themselves from its reach. Pattern recognition. It remembered fragments. Not clearly, not fully, but enough. Enough to know there had been observers. Enough to know there had been thought. Enough to know there had been something interesting. In that absence, that sudden absolute lack of it, created something new. Not hunger, not aggression, something quieter, something more dangerous. Curiosity. Meanwhile, drifting through that same forgotten region. A probe awakened. Ancient, damaged, barely functional. Its systems flickered to life after centuries of dormant drift. It didn't know where it came from. It didn't know what its purpose was. Its memory banks were corrupted, partial logs, fragmented data, incomplete recordings. But one function remained intact. Observation. It turned slowly, its sensors recalibrating, scanning the void around it. Most of what it detected was ordinary: radiation, distant stars, empty space. Then, a fluctuation. Small, barely measurable, but different. The probe locked onto it. Zoomed, analyzed, recorded. It didn't understand what it was seeing, but it didn't need to. It simply did what it was designed to do. It transmitted. A weak signal stretched thin across distance and time. Data, images, readings, a description of something that didn't fit. Somewhere, that signal was received. Not by a civilization, not by a system, but by something that had been waiting. The faint imprint stirred. Not violently, not suddenly, but deliberately. The signal gave it something it hadn't had in a long time. Focus. The fragment sharpened. The pattern reformed. And within that vast, incomprehensible structure, a single realization crystallized. Not in words, but in understanding. Something was looking again. Across the silent expanse of space. Stars flickered. Just once. Subtly. Almost unnoticeably. Reality held steady. For now. But deep beneath the surface of existence. The process had restarted. Because no matter how much was forgotten, no matter how completely awareness was erased, there was one thing no intelligent system could ever fully eliminate. The need to observe. The need to understand. The need to know.